that's okay. I mean, actually, it's later. And everyone, guess what? This is something that Dave and I have started. This is a pre-show to Dave's live investigation, which will be following this show. And I'm really excited to bring Dave on, and the manager, the general manager of the location that Dave is going to be at, or is at, and it is the Landall's Mohican Castle in Ohio. Is that right, Dave? Ohio?
Yeah. Hi, Noreen. How you doing tonight?
Fine. Hey, so everyone, let's welcome Dave Spinks. Dave, tell the viewers about yourself for those who may be joining us and don't know who you are.
Yeah, my name is Dave Spinks, and I have a paranormal investigation business called CRP TV. You'll see me on that channel on YouTube with numerous other paranormal investigators across the country.
Oh, okay. And Dave, and Dave has chosen the location tonight to be the Landall's Mohican Castle. And I know Dave is so excited to be there, and I have never really heard of this location. I know it's extremely haunted, and Dave has with him right now, he has the general manager, Jimmy Landall. Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Noreen. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Now, Jimmy, would you tell the viewers about this location, please?
Yeah, a little brief back history. The property was purchased by my parents in 1990, and it's always kind of been a gathering place, if you will. It had an original Indian settlement on the grounds here at one time long ago, and it also had a gentleman that came over from France who purchased a couple thousand acres down here, named Jacob Hyde. He kind of founded this little area down here out in the middle of the woods, and he had a little church called St. Jacob's Lutheran Church here in the 1830s, and so it's kind of been a gathering place of sorts for many, many years.
I'm showing some pictures of your castle right now to the viewers. Now, what about the hauntings that have been occurring on this property? And there's also something, Jimmy, I read about fires that happened to.
Yeah.
What's with the fires?
Well, St. Jacob Church up here was really the only building on the property for a long time, and they had two groups of people that attended the church. There were the English settlers, the English-speaking settlers that attended the church, and then there was German-speaking immigrants that also attended the church. They were usually farm hands, things like that, and Jacob Hyde, the patriarch of the church, allowed them to have their own German-speaking sermon every Sunday. And after a little while, he kind of was tired of them speaking German in his English church, and kind of gave them the choice to either learn to speak English or find a different church. Well, they chose the latter and decided that they would start their own church. But before they started their church, they actually dug up all their dead relatives that were buried in the cemetery and moved them to another cemetery that's about a mile down the road. And 3 days after that happened, the church here on property actually was set fire and burnt down. They never officially solved the fire, but they assumed that it was the Germans that did that.
Then it wasn't a mysterious fire. They actually believed that somebody set it on fire.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but then after that, there was...
Once we purchased, the property was purchased, like I said earlier, in 1990, and in 92, my parents owned a children's publishing company. They published books, or children's books, coloring books, things like that. And it was actually one of the largest children's publishers in the country at the time. And it burnt to the ground in '92. With, again, no known cause of what happened or how the fire was set. And then again, they moved up and bought about 1 million square foot facility. It was an old foundry from the 1800s that produced water pumps. And they moved the publishing company there. And then in '95, they had a pretty massive fire. Luckily, they installed sprinkler systems, and that fire was able to be extinguished. But they ended up selling the company to the Chicago Tribune in 1997, and the building was a really old foundry in the town that the industry had kind of left, Ashland, Ohio. There wasn't a whole lot of big business left there, and they really couldn't find anybody that wanted to purchase the building. So they ended up giving them away to a charity that was going to use them to. I think they were going to turn it into like homeless housing or something to that effect. But a year or two after that, there was one building. It was two buildings, one big office building, and one factory. And these big old brick buildings. And one whole side of that building caught fire and burnt to the ground.
Oh my God.
Again, never officially solved. And then just 2 years ago, the other side of that building was actually set fire, and that one was solved. That ended up being arson, and burned the whole other portion of the building. Whole other portion, yeah.
And what about? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. Then here on site, we had a big restaurant. It was a very large building. It was valued at something like $750,000 to $1 million facility, and the building in 2007 or 2008, was caught fire. It was actually the weekend before Mother's Day, I believe, that year. It caught fire and burnt to the ground. That building, my father unfortunately had forgotten to renew the insurance a week prior to that, and so that building was a total loss, and it was a pretty devastating thing that happened here. But again, that was another fire that was unsolved. So we kind of feel like our family, in a way, has kind of been cursed with some form of fire since that they purchased the property.
Now, I also read that they believe the land that you're on is cursed. Do you?
Yeah, I've had several people tell me that. I don't necessarily believe that personally, but I've had people that have been out here guess at that and or kind of attribute things that have happened to some form of curse that was placed by the German immigrants.
Now, also the land that you're on was Mohican property, Mohican land.
Yeah, we're neighboring with Mohican State Forest. It's in Mohican State Park. It's a large state-owned land down here that is primarily used for like hiking and things like that. But it has a strong presence with Native Americans and things like that in its history.
And right here where we're sitting, you told me before all this was built behind us, it was all leveled out, right?
Yeah, this spot the castle actually directly sits on was pretty much a level location with several large trees that were in the 100 to 150 year old range, and not that you can see where we're at, but we're in an extremely high elevation area with a lot of rolling hills. We're basically at the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh my
So
God.
it's uncommon for there to be a flat spot, and that large a tree, we assumed that it was some form of Indian settlement here. Though there has never been any official Indian artifacts recovered, other than arrowheads and spearheads and things like that.
Are you right by the Mohican River or the Ohio River? What's the river that you're by?
The Mohican River is less than a mile from here from us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's just down over the hill, Maureen.
Oh, did you see it, Dave?
Yeah, I came right past it.
Oh my God, it looks absolutely gorgeous. What about now? This property also has a graveyard that's connected with this property. Do you own that graveyard?
Yes, we own the graveyard. It's called Hyde Cemetery, and it was actually the cemetery we believe is 200 plus years old. It has a lot of the original pioneers burials up there that are just marked with unmarked sandstones that were placed in the ground, and that's one of the reasons Jacob Hyde, the original owner, chose to build his church there and continue the cemetery.
We're actually looking at it. It's right there. It's like 50, 60 yards from here.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, what about the hauntings that are happening in this graveyard?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things that have been captured up there. We started doing some little ghost hunts and stuff just last year, but I've been ghost hunting this property for probably about 8 years, I would say. And I've heard and seen a lot of interesting things. I was telling Dave earlier, one of my favorite occurrences happened actually May of last year. It was the first night of summer, and my 14-year-old daughter had about 8 or 9 of her girlfriends over. And I'm the dad that all the other parents think weird, don't think the kids go hunting. So of course they're here. First thing they want to do is go ghost hunting. So I take them up there, and I don't get out any special equipment. I give them just a Meg-Light flashlight, and they can try to communicate through that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And on this particular night, nothing was really happening. They were getting some form of goosebumps or what have you. But so we're moving around, and I'm kind of leaning up against the tree, and I'm not really paying attention to everything, but I'm just kind of laughing at some of the questions they're asking, just really ridiculous teenage questions. And all of a sudden, one of the girls kind of gets a little bit, starts to get agitated or something. And I can't remember exactly what she said, but all of a sudden the flashlight levitated up off the stone that the headstone is sitting on. And it lifted probably a good 2 or 3 inches and turned on at the same time, and literally launched off the top of the stone and landed a good 8 feet away. And these girls, first of all, screamed at the top of their lungs.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I'm standing there almost in shock because I've seen a lot of things, but to me it was 100% confirmation that it was something from otherworldly happening. So,
and what was great about that when he was telling me that story is I had my millimeter out and got a 2.7 millical hit in the middle of the graveyard at the same time. So,
Jake.
So, as he told me the story, the millimeter goes off 2.7. It should go off up there at all.
No power.
There's no power or anything.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. Now I also read, Jimmy, that a little girl in a blue dress has been seen in the graveyard, and also
yes, the little girl in the blue dress is kind of become to me probably my favorite legend from here because it's something that I have yet to witness. And I was telling Dave earlier, the spirits here are almost comfortable with me because I've been here for so many years. So they're around me, and I can kind of sense they're there, but I have yet to physically see an apparition or something to that effect here, but a lot of people have. And a couple of the stories are from just guests that are staying here. They're not here looking for ghosts, and one of the first occasions, it was several years ago, I get a lot of the night emergency calls when people, the front desk closes, they'll call me and tell me, they need towels, if that's an emergency, but things like that. And I get this call, it was in the middle of December, and a woman. I could tell she was, an older woman, not a teenager or anything like that. And she says that there's a little girl walking through the cemetery, and she called out for her and tried to get her to come to her. She just kept walking and needed me to come see if I could help her, or if she should call the police or something like that. And
that's
mind
awesome.
you, it was the middle of December here, and we had a good, probably almost a foot of snow on the ground.
Wow.
So a little girl wandering dress in that weather is not a normal thing.
Now,
my first
Go
yeah,
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
My first instinct wasn't ghost, obviously. I'm a father, so my first instinct was concern for a child. And so I head over here, and I didn't live on site at the time. I got here, and the woman had gone to her room, but she couldn't find the girl again. So I started walking the top of the hill, and I see nothing. I'm walking through the cemetery, hollering out for somebody, and no response. And then it hits me, there's no footprints in the cemetery of any kind. The only footprints up there were the woman and her husband that were from their car walking the driveway part. I could tell, they didn't go into the cemetery, obviously, because they're probably a little freaked out by it or something. But so I come down to their room and knock. I tell them I can't find anybody. And she almost got upset with me, like I was lying to her, or I didn't want to look, or something like that. So I come over to the front desk, and I pull the files of people who were staying here that night, thinking there might be somebody with a child in one of the rooms, and I can call them and ask if there's a child. And then I realized that they were one of two rooms here, and the only other room was one of the cabins at the bottom of the hill. It was just another couple with no children. And their car had been sitting there, obviously, for a while, so there was no track coming from their cabin. So I had to go back to this woman's room and basically tell her she was lying, more or less, in a nice way. And she was very frustrated with me and ended up slamming the door in my face.
Oh my!
And so then I started to think, well, she was showing such concern and that it was genuine. It wasn't, she really thought she saw something. And the husband said he saw it too, but he couldn't see the entire body or whatever. He just saw something out of the corner of his eye. But that was the first occasion, and I've had a minimum of 5 other reports of that happening since I've been working here, been associated with the property.
And the crying that's being heard at the graveyard, and also the crying.
The girls here at the front desk used to have to go up to our a building at the top of the hill that used to house our indoor pool, and they'd have to turn the lights off and lock the doors up at 11 o'clock at night, and which they did for many years. Well, they started telling me that they would hear crying coming from inside the building when they go turn the lights on, or up around the cemetery. And my first instinct was it was probably an owl or some form of animal. And I went up there with them one occasion, and or several occasions. But on one particular occasion, I heard the exact same thing coming from inside the building. It was never, obviously never could figure out exactly what it was, but that is something that occurred.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard that in a while, actually. Probably, I heard it last year, but I haven't heard it. It was probably close to 9 months ago. But it used to happen almost every night.
Now, what about cabin? You call it Cabin 13, and this is actually where Dave is staying.
Yes, it's the Macbeth Cottage is its official name. We never had a 13 in any of our rooms. For most hotels don't do that. And when I finally convinced my mom to allow me to advertise some of the hauntings that go on here, it genuinely scares her. So she was always against it, especially because she's got to be here alone sometimes, and it freaks her out to think about it. And so I've always known that cottage was haunted. Before we remodeled it, it was a scary place to enter, just pretty expensive. It was just have that abandoned old cabin in the woods feeling that basically what it is. And we didn't have a 13, and I chose to name it, it's the Macbeth Cottage, but it's number 13. And I've had a lot of interesting occurrences down there. And what's strange about it, though, is we don't really know much history on the building itself. We know that it was built in the late 1800s, 1880s, 1890s, somewhere in there. And it was just a log cabin. Then in the 1940s, there was stone at it. So it kind of looks like what you would picture a gingerbread house type of feel now. But the gentleman that lived in that house, at some point, we don't know his real name, but we know their nicknames, him and his wife, were Toots and Tubby. Because on the hearth of the fireplace, there's a little stone plaque that he had carved. And we believe he was probably the one that put the stone on the building. I also know that there was a gentleman that lived there at one point named King Moses. He was a freed slave, and he actually lived there for a little while, because I actually found that at the record books of the court. And this property used to sit on the Tri-County line, and that was really the only building here. And there used to be a moonshine business ran out of there. And because of on the Tri-County line, they'd be in Ashland, the county we're in, but then they could hop over to Knox County or Holmes County. And so a little bit of that type of stuff went on there. But it's the hauntings that happen there. I believe personally that they're coming from a little girl buried in the cemetery named Samantha. She's also the one I believe is the little girl in the blue dress. I've had several conversations with her through EVP and different, millimeter, different tools, and we've basically gathered that. There's a place down in Cincinnati called, actually I can't think of the name, but there's a place in Cincinnati. It's been on several of the ghost hunting shows. I think it's the Evansville Rectory. The owners of that place stayed in the cottage a couple different times. And I actually have an email where she's telling me that she believes that cottage is more haunted than the building that they have. And they were awesome people, and their place is extremely haunted. So,
Jim,
we don't really know the true cause of it, but there's an extreme amount of activity.
Jimmy, is there a headstone of this little girl Samantha in the grave?
Yes, there is. She actually shares a headstone with her mother. Her mother's name is Sarah, and their last name is Carnegie, and we believe they were part of the Carnegie Field family in one way or another.
Carnegie.
And they died they both died of typhoid.
Oh, Carnegie. That's a famous last name, Carnegie. It wasn't Carnegie. Weren't they on
Carnegie Hall. Carnegie still family out of Pittsburgh was the big Carnegie. Now we don't know how exactly they're related, but some research that's been done, they were related somehow or another.
Now what?
Carnegie's mother died at age 37, and Samantha died at age 8. And I believe it was 9 days after her mother died.
Wow. What about the tunnels? You have tunnels going underneath?
We do. We have one tunnel that I call the tunnel to nowhere because it goes nowhere. But its original purpose was to be like a wine cellar for the property, and it kind of changed and never got finished. And again, this is just burrowed into the hillside here of Castle, and that's actually the first location I was ever physically touched by a spirit.
One of the viewers wanted to know if you told me, but they want to know if you live on the property.
Yes, I do. We can actually see my house from where we're sitting. I live, 100 yards from the castle itself in an old cottage with my family.
Oh, but where do your parents live?
My father actually lived in Jacob Hyde's original house that he built when he moved here. It's from the 1830s.
Wow.
And that's about a mile and a half from here out in the middle of the woods. And my mother lives probably about 5 miles from here.
Now, it's also been reported that people staying, your guests will see Civil War ghosts coming in and out of the rooms.
Yeah, it's one room in particular mainly. We have a room here to the right of us that is the Hess Suite. It's also room number 2, and it directly faces the cemetery. Well, I mean, the cemetery is 50, 60 yards away, but it faces that direction. And again, this was a report that came from a night call, and I got the phone call from a woman who was basically terrified that there was somebody in the room with her. And she called me and asked me to come over right away, and that she swears she saw a man dressed in a Civil War uniform in that room. And so I came over here from where I lived at the time, which was a few miles away, and came to her room, and her and her husband, they were, again, an older couple, I mean, maybe probably in their 60s even, and so they weren't somebody that was drunk, messing around. They were, genuinely had some form of an experience. So as I'm sitting there over in their room talking to them and trying to kind of calm them down, I said, basically, can you tell me what happened? And she said that they were lying in bed, sound asleep, and they got feeling like the blankets were being pulled off their bodies, like someone was there, and that's actually what happened. They were tugged from the bottom of their feet, and they were pulled down to about their waist, really swiftly, like it wasn't, a subtle thing. And she woke up and she saw a man that was dressed in a Civil War uniform, standing at the end of their bed, and then it was gone. She turned the light on, it was there for a second, and it was gone.
Wow.
And the same thing happened in that room without the blanket scenario. A couple had reported seeing a man dressed in a Civil War uniform. Now that couple literally left in the middle of the night. Threw their key on the back of that. And we found out the next day, actually one of our front desk girls found out. And this was after the first occurrence happened, probably a couple of years ago.
Oh my God. Dave would have loved that.
Yeah.
So Jimmy, did you try and connect with that Civil War soldier who keeps showing up in that room? Did you go up there and try and do EVP work or try to connect with him?
Yeah, I have actually. There's actually two burials. The one gentleman's named Solomon Shute, and he died directly from injuries that occurred in this battle. It wasn't he didn't die in battle, but he died, I think, a month after the Civil War ended from injuries he suffered from the war. And then there's another man that was buried up there. Now his headstone has been stolen now. We don't know why it was stolen before we owned the property, but he's buried up there. And then we have a War of 1812 veteran. His name's Stephen Woodruff, and he's also buried here on site.
Wow.
And I have tried to connect with them, and they're not. They don't seem to be a very talkative or interested spirit. I don't know exactly what the reason is for that, but I haven't directly been able to communicate with them. But we've had people that have attempted it and claimed to have had a conversation or communication with Solomon Shute specifically.
And there's 80 to 100 confirmed.
Yeah, there's 80 to 100 bodies in the cemetery, and there's probably, I would say, 60 headstones left. And those are reported burials. There's not, there's obviously some burials up there from pioneer days, late 1700s that are very, very.
So your family owns that graveyard, right?
Yeah, I was telling Dave that, typically cemeteries are owned by a township or a county. And this cemetery was actually basically forgotten. When we purchased the property, it literally was in the middle of the woods. It was all trees through there. And basically what happened is the township forgot over the years that the cemetery existed. And when they bought the property, the cemetery went with it. And they cleaned it up and cut, some of the larger trees that were, invasive to the bodies or the monuments up there, and kind of have tried clean it up and repair some of the broken stuff.
Has anyone requested to be buried in that graveyard?
My dad wants to be buried there, but I don't know if anyone's going to let him. We'll see.
Do you allow any Do you allow any burials anymore in that graveyard?
I don't even think it's legal because it's privately owned.
What's the Jewish headstone? What, 1890 something?
Yeah, 18. I think there's actually one from like 1910 up there. Just one. So I don't know.
They're old. They're really old.
Well, so
1830.
So what's the oldest one? 1830.
I think our headstone is 1830, but I know for 100% certainty that there's stones from 1780.
Oh my God! And what's the latest one? 1910.
I think it's like 1910, 1912.
Wow.
It's one stone, and it's like 10 or 12 years after the latest one. So it's very strange.
And when did your family acquire this land? And
That 1990 it was purchased, and it was purchased from a gentleman named Lee Cabin, and he's still alive today. He's got to be in his upper 90s.
Oh.
And he's a local talent historian. So that's where we've gathered all these stories from all the work he's done over the years. And he did all this work before the internet, and just from research. And he's written a couple books about the area, and he actually wrote a weekly article in our local paper until about 2 years ago about Loudonville's history. So he's a very unique and interesting person.
Wow, that's a fascinating.
Also, Noreen, another key point that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, one of the main reasons Mr. Hyde chose to build his church up there was not only because it was already a functioning cemetery at the time, but the Wells Fargo wagon trail used to come to this property as well.
Wow. Hey, you know what?
You can still see it, Noreen. You can still see the old Wells Fargo.
Yeah, where it was cut into the hillside, and like I said, it's very hilly here, so you can see where the old trails were.
Oh, Dave, I hope you take lots of video and photos, so we can all see that.
I'm probably staying another day. It's beautiful. It's unbelievable.
Hey, Jimmy, there is one more photograph that I was able to get. I'm telling the information, trying to get information on your castle is so difficult. There's not much, and you're smart. You're smart. Jimmy, you're smart by not releasing that, because if they want to come to your castle, then they can find out the information, because really nobody's posting it. But I do have one picture. It's a ghost picture that was captured in front of the castle, and there's a mist. Somebody captured this. What can you tell me about it?
Yeah, that was a guest that was. They were actually I wouldn't even call them a guest. They weren't even staying here. They were just driving through. A lot of people. We have like a big loop driveway, so you can come up and stop, and people take pictures. Obviously, because there's a huge castle in the middle of the woods in Ohio. It's a little out of place. So they sent that picture to us. They captured it on. I forget the date. It's on the picture, I believe, but they captured it and they sent it to the girls at the front desk. And knowing that I was into the paranormal, they showed it to me, and I sent it to a friend of mine that ran a haunted business building in Mansfield. The Mansfield Reformatory is also over there. It's like 35 minutes from here.
Oh, man, don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Don't tell Dave about any more haunted locations. He'll never come home.
There's a lot. He'll be surprised. But so I sent it to a friend, and he had it confirmed from somebody that worked on one of the bigger television shows, ghost hunting shows, that it was confirmed real and accurate and not all right. So but if you zoom way in on that picture, you can actually see a woman's head, and you can see her hair is actually in a bun. And it's one of the coolest pictures that's been taken out here, because it's number one, it's in the daytime, which isn't as common. But so really a unique, interesting picture.
Well, you know what? It almost looks like there's somebody trailing her, maybe a younger child.
There's definitely two people there. Right. So we don't know who they are, obviously. But another interesting thing when I do paranormal investigations, I'm kind of like Dave. I'll do some on my own here. I have friends that do it, but sometimes I just go out on my own. And I have a printed copy of that picture. And down in the cottage, we had, K2, ghost meter, everything set up in there. And on this occurrence, I wasn't by myself. I was with a few other people. But I pulled that picture out the first time, and everything went on when I showed them that picture. Wow. And so it was really a cool occurrence that happened down there. So we don't know a lot about it.
So you pulled the picture out and all the equipment was crazy.
Yeah, like everything.
Like that's me, showing, hey, that's me, that's me.
Yeah,
that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Jimmy, can you please tell the viewers your website?
Yeah, our website is landholdmohicancastle.com, and you can also find us on Facebook if you search landholdmohicancastle.com.
And you also have a ghost hunting tour on if somebody comes and stays there?
Yeah, well, we offer like private investigations to people, year round, and then we also do in September and October. I'll do little ghost walks where basically I'll go around and just tell the story and the history of the place. People see the really story.
Okay, and they want to know exactly where is this location?
We're in
all the GPS.
We're in a town called Loudonville, Ohio, and we're about an hour and 20 minutes south of Cleveland, and an hour and 20 minutes north of Columbus. But our closest large city is Mansfield, Ohio, and it's about 30, 35 minutes away.
If you can make it to Loudonville, you'll find this place.
Yeah, we have a sign somewhere.
Awesome. All right, now Dave. Now everybody, Dave is going to be airing a live investigation at this location, and keep your fingers crossed. Any part of the location, Dave, would be fine with us. Anything.
Yeah, unfortunately, the cell phone signal is spotty here. I don't know if it's going to be good enough to live stream. The Wi-Fi is on
satellite internet.
It's on satellite, so it lags too much to live stream, as we know. But I'm going to try, and if not, I will film it and put it up. Like the next day or the day after. But I think I'm planning on probably staying here another night tomorrow because this place is so big. There's no way I can go to each area that Jimmy has walked me around and do a really good investigation. Plus, where I'm staying tonight is like the most active place on the place according to Jimmy. So, I might just be down there all night, depending if I can stream or not. If I can do stuff up here in the Red Oak Tower. Right. You haven't told them about the Red Oak Tower.
Yeah, the Red Oak Tower, again, this is another anomaly that we don't know why, but it seems to be a really good ECT spot. And I had one group of paranormal investigators come from Cincinnati. They've been here 3 times now since last year. And they spent an entire night in there, and they came out with well over 100 ECTs. Wow. And now, not all of them are great, but they have some really, really Class A stuff. So, and it's, again, just a weird thing. It's the tallest point on the castle. It's about 80 feet above ground here. And it's just basically an observation tower, but it's got like a little room at the top.
And that's what I'm hoping I can go up high and get even the better signal. So that's where I'm going to try to live stream from, is right here and around the main castle tonight. I already know I can't do it at the cabin because it's kind of down in the Goldie, and there's just no cell phone, nothing down there. So I'm going to try there, maybe even up to the graveyard some tonight, and do tonight and tomorrow, and film the rest and put it on my channel. The rest of I can't live stream. So.
Okay, Dave, when did you plan on airing your live investigation?
I'm going to try to start about 9:30 right now. I got a beautiful steak dinner waiting for me, courtesy of the castle here. So I'm gonna grab a bite to eat, and then I'm gonna try to get the stream going.
Okay, so 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's
It's not. It's what, quarter till 8 now, so probably 9:30ish, and I'll go as long as I can. It's getting chilly out now. We're outside right now, but I'll have to go get some warmer clothes on too, and put my beanie on because it's gonna be a little chilly tonight probably. But we'll do the best we can. If not, that's just part of live streaming. Especially when you come out to a beautiful place like this, it's out in the woods, so you got to do how you do it.
Right. Dave, tell them where they can go to find the event for your live show tonight.
You can go to my YouTube channel. It's CRP Investigation on YouTube. If the stream that I have set up doesn't work, just be patient, guys. I'll put another one up, and just keep watching my channel. All you gotta do is refresh it, and you'll see it. When it's live, it'll say live. It's got the red dot that says live on it. So I'm gonna try super hard. Don't give up. If it takes me a while to get the stream going, and I'll do the best I can for you guys.
And I'll be posting on Google, and I'll be posting on Facebook as well. For those of you who can see my Facebook channel, it's open to everybody. So it will be there, and we will post for you, Dave. And good luck. And Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your location.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
And the place is amazing, guys. I gotta tell you, it's unbelievable. I mean, if you ever get a chance to come down here and check it out, if you live in the general area, come on down, man. This place is awesome. Let me tell you.
Oh God, it looks fabulous. It looks really. And so, Dave, you have a really good investigation. We will be waiting. And keeping our fingers crossed that we can see something tonight, and you'll be able to go live.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope I can get it going live for you guys. If not, it's gonna be a 2-day investigation anyway because I've already fell in love with the place. It's unbelievable. There's no way I can do it all in one night. So I'm gonna try tonight, try tomorrow to go live for you guys. If not, like I said, I'll film it and do what I can for you.
Okay, well, I guess that ends this part of the show. Don't forget to stay tuned for Dave's live investigation. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us in chat. And Dave, we'll see you in a little while.
Okay, thanks for having us on, Rory.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you so much. And please don't forget, there's 2 shows going tonight. Spooky and Dave's live ghost hunt, and then let's see, Tina Nichols. Now I know she's not in the chat, and I had told her last week that I said hi to her son Jonathan, but she's got to be in chat to remind me to say hi. He wanted me to say hi, so if you're watching, honey, hello. So everybody, I'm going to say good night, and thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you guys all on Thursday night, okay? And again, thank you. I love you so much. And thank you so much for all your support. And have a great evening. And I'll see you I'll see you over at Dave's show later. And I'll see you Thursday night. So good night, everybody. I love you. Thank you. Good night.